Oh, 7 games to talk about. Monday night, it was an interesting one. We had news before the games. We had news during the games. Probably still news coming in. A lot of it not good. Welcome to the fantasy basketball playoffs for a lot of you. I have some thoughts. I have some thoughts on the real life basketball. I have some thoughts on the fantasy basketball. Let's dive into everything. This is the Balls Deep. This isn't the Balls Deep. This is the Monday post-game show. Let's go Balls Deep.
I'm the type to get shit done. You the type to observe. March Madness on my speakers, but today's November 23rd. Got something loud in the blunt, yeah. I don't say what I want, yeah. Probably somewhere sunny getting tan. Foreign women in the sun, yeah. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. That's all that I need. Got my brothers with me. Got my brothers with me, and my mama's healthy. That's all that I need.
Welcome to the Balls Deep podcast, brought to you by Fantasy Basketball International. I'm Adam King. Find me on Twitter and Blue Sky at AdamKing91. Find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere and everywhere you consume your fantasy basketball content. We are also part of the Old Man Squad at Old Man Squad on Twitter. All right, we are back. We had a day off yesterday, went to the movies and saw The Monkey. It was very good. For some reason, they didn't play the after credits scene. That was disappointing, but the movie was good. But we are back today with the first day of the week. For many of you, it is the fantasy playoffs, and I've already had a lot of questions today about questions, comments, thoughts, I suppose, from people on this time of the year. Fantasy playoffs, very important. And we're getting players rested and sitting out and fake injuries and all that sort of stuff that we knew was coming. We've basically been dealing with it for weeks anyway, but today just felt like, I don't know, tipped over the edge a bit. We got a few new teams entering that discussion of who is going to play, who isn't going to play. And then to top that off, we had an abundance of injuries today, which we will cover when we go through the games. So, of course, this gets me to thinking, what can we do to not fix fantasy basketball, but what can we do to, I guess, make the fantasy playoffs as reflective of the regular season as possible? By that, I mean the number of people that have commented or said to me today they finished first. They were missing like 8 players today, and they're probably going to lose their weekly matchup because of the time of year we're at. So you finish first, you get no reward because you bundled out in the first round of the playoffs, because a team like Houston just decides to rest their whole team for whatever reason. What can we do? Look, we can shorten the season. Obviously, that's the easy one, but at this point, we're already shortened the season. So by shortening it even more, it just feels like the fantasy season is becoming too short. If we were to bring it, I guess if we sort of think of landmarks within the season, do we finish the season at the All-Star break? Well, that really then just gives us November, December, January, and then sort of half of February. So it really becomes like a 4-month season, which is, I mean, it's still fun, but it's short. That leaves 8 months of no fantasy basketball, and that's not what we want. We want this as close to 6 months as possible, and obviously that's not doable. Roto leagues, yes, a little bit different. But what else can we do? So I thought, look, I messaged Josh today just to get his thoughts, and I'm sure I've had these thoughts before. And sorry, this is going to be a bit of obviously a rant. Well, not a rant, but a discussion which isn't directly related to the games tonight. But I thought it was important anyway. I messaged Josh just to find out what he views as typical roster settings in fantasy. So in a 12-team league, what do we want our rosters? How many players, how many active, all that sort of stuff. His preference is 16 and 10. So 16 roster spots, 10 active. So that's obviously, or probably, a little bit deeper than what most of you are doing. My leagues tend to be 14 roster spots with 8-ish, maybe 9 active roster spots. So he's preferring to go a little bit deeper, which obviously that limits the... Well, it doesn't limit the ability to stream, but it limits the appeal of streaming because the waiver wire would be pretty barren if you were in a 12-team league, 16 roster spots. There's not going to be as much talent sitting on the waiver wire. So it helps with that, or limits that if you want to view that as helping. It also somewhat negates the impact of injuries because the more active roster spots, the deeper your roster, you have a couple of players out, you've got more players to choose from on your roster to fill in. So I absolutely get that. So I think that makes sense. Part of anyone that watches my show knows that a couple of my leagues, I did a redraft at about the All-Star break. Actually, it was before. Yeah, around that time anyway, we did a complete redraft. So league standings finished, we split, we do a redraft, a top 8, bottom 8, or top 7, bottom 7, however many teams are in your league. You then play a little round robin tournament for a month and head into your fantasy playoffs starting next week. The idea behind that, our rosters are shallow. Well, we've only got 7 teams, or 8 teams. So our teams are very talented. You basically have 2 first-round players on every roster. So again, negates the impact of injuries because you lose a first-round player. You have another one. You have 2 second-round players, 2 third-round players. So your rosters are a lot more top-heavy. And you're redrafting, so someone who maybe was drafted in the second round to start the season is a flop. So they're maybe not going to be drafted, or they got injured. So you've had this guy on your roster like a Brandon Ingram all season. We do this redraft. You got rid of him. You don't have him anymore. That seems to have worked to some degree. I do like that idea, but obviously that's not for everyone. It does mean drafting a second time. When I was looking at through all the injury news today and players out and resting, and even for tomorrow, it's really more, to me, it's more about the quantity, not the quality here. So it's not the fact of who is injured or who is out, although today, I guess you could argue that point. But today was a freaky day. If we think more, this is what the season looks like as a whole, and injuries and players resting. It's more about the number of players that are doing it, the number of teams that are doing it, rather than the specific players that are missing time. What is a way to combat that? Is a simple fix. Well, it's not a fix, but a way to somewhat limit the impact of those missed games. Do we, once we hit a certain point in the season, whether it's the All-Star break or even just, for example, today, industry pickup, we're into our fantasy playoffs now. When you start your playoffs, do you simply shorten your rosters? So do you go from, in Josh's instance, where you had a 16 roster spots, 10 active, do you simply go to 8 active? Is that a way of doing it? Because I'm pretty sure you can do that. I think you can change your roster settings mid-season. Do you just go from 8 active roster spots to 6 and a bigger bench? Because then if you have 4 players out, it's not going to impact you as much as if you had 8 or 10 active roster spots, because you might have 4 empty roster spots and your opponent might have 1, even though you've got the same amount of teams playing, same amount of players technically playing. So if you just shorten those rosters, does it somewhat negate that? I don't know. And obviously it's a bit late. I'm not going to implement it now. But I'm thinking next season, I'll probably have a rule in a couple of leagues. Maybe it'll just be a trial that... And look, I'll probably do... Maybe we'll do some trial leagues on FBI or something where we do from the 1st of February, rosters go from 8 to 6, or from the All-Star break, rosters go from 8 to 6. Once the playoffs start, goes from 8 to 6. I'm not sure. That was just a simple, really simple way. I'm not sure if it would help. But I was just looking at my rosters today and thinking, man, if I only had 6 active roster spots, I'd have a full roster. And I actually wouldn't care as much about all these players sitting out because I'd have players to slot in rather than having empty roster spots due to injury. So anyway, there's my thoughts. Let's get into the games. Sorry about that. That was, 10 minutes of me rambling on. Golden State at Charlotte. Warriors, 119-101. Pretty comfortable in the end. Charlotte, they kept it sort of close, but they're pretty embarrassing at the moment. The Hornets at this point. LaMelo Ball, I'm not sure he even cares. He looks so... I don't know what the word is. Lackadaisical, disinterested. I think part of that is just LaMelo Ball. I think that's what he looks like. But some of the shots he's taking, I'm like, are you serious? I know they go in, but it's like someone who's just playing street ball, not in the NBA. So the Warriors, they do end up getting the win relatively comfortably. Jimmy Butler returned. He had 13 and 4. Moses Moody has cooled off a little bit lately. Look, Buddy Hield was good in this one. Again, we know the Charlotte bump, the Brooklyn bump. We talk about this all season. When you're up against Charlotte, it's a good opportunity to get your production trending in the right direction. Buddy Hield did that here. 22 points in 31 minutes. I'm not adding him after this performance. Kuminga is supposedly getting closer. Don't know when he's coming back. Podziemski left this game briefly with a knee injury, but he returned. He looked pretty good, 19 and 11 with 2 steals. So we're rostering him, Steph, Draymond, Jimmy Butler. Beyond that, I don't think we need to hold anyone. When Kuminga comes back, he could move into being a must-roster player. So if you can afford to just stash him in an IR spot and he's available, go and grab him. All right, for Charlotte, LaMelo Ball played. Look, that was a good thing. He threw up some really bad shots, turned the ball over 6 times, but he had 25, 9, and 7 with a steal and a block. So the numbers are fine. 5 of 8 from the line. His free throw shooting has been weirdly bad. I don't know how bad, but I'd like to have a look because I feel like he's had a few nights like this. Spell his name properly. Here we go. LaMelo Ball. Here we go. Because, I think of him as he should be an 85% free throw shooter, as should a lot of players, to be honest. Yep. Anytime, basketball monster. There we go. So, LaMelo, free throw percentage... All right. Okay, here we go. So free throw percentage. He was, 62% today, 75 a couple of games ago. Yeah, 50%, 50%, 50%, 60%. So he's had a few of those nights just where his free throws aren't dropping for whatever reason, which is it's dragging him down a little bit. He's still a positive contributor. But yeah, like over the last 2 months, he's at 78%. He should be at 83, 84. And I know that's not a massive difference, but on such a high volume, which he is, it does make a difference. So anyway, it was good to see LaMelo out there. He wasn't on the injury report. He'll probably miss the next game now. He's pretty hard to trust. Miles Bridges played through an injury, had 35 points, 9 rebounds. He's pretty safe. I don't trust the Hornets at all, but Miles Bridges seems to just be playing every game. Nick Smith, while he is playing every game, he isn't playing well every game. 6 points in this one. Look, if you want to hold him, I think you can, but you don't have to. We're getting into that real pointy end of the season now, so we can be pretty cutthroat when it comes to who we hold and who we don't hold. Mark Williams, we do hold him, 12 and 13 with 2 blocks. There's going to be missed games. We know that. But as we're going to find out tonight talking through these games, a lot of players are in that situation where they're going to miss games. So at least with Mark Williams, we know it's coming. and when it's coming, generally speaking, with others when we have no idea. Nurkic had 5 and 5 in 15 minutes off the bench. Stream him in when Mark Williams is out. That's about it, I think. All right, that was just Charlotte, just depressing. Let's move on to, two more. Well, at least one more depressing team. Portland aren't that depressing. Portland do get the win over Philadelphia 119-102. For the Blazers, there was no DeAndre Ayton, of course. No Rob Williams, no Jeremy Grant. So that's all fine. If we're like that for the rest of the season, I'd be happy. Tamani Kamara, 11 and 9, hold him. Not his best night, but we still hold. Denny Avdia had 9 points. Bad shooting. Just a bad night overall. It didn't matter against this Philadelphia team. Klingon had 13 and 13 with 3 blocks. This is why we are holding him wherever we can. Sharp and Simons were both good. They're very up and down. Sharp has actually been the better of the two of late. So I think I'm holding Sharp. Simons, obviously. As for Scoot, he's been pretty bad. 7 and 6 in his 22 minutes. We will get a week or a few games of probably top 80 value from Scoot. But at the moment, like I said, we're being pretty cutthroat when it comes to rotations. And I think we're okay to move on from Scoot. Henderson. For Philly, Tyrese Maxey, one of the injuries tonight, one of the many. Let me just bring up those injury because I've got to remember what all the injuries are. Back contusion. He took a fall. That's right. So Tyrese Maxey looked to be in a bit of pain. I think they might play tomorrow, the Sixers. Let me just double check that. Sixers, they do. They play the Timberwolves tomorrow. So almost no chance Tyrese Maxey plays tomorrow. Justin Edwards had 16 and 6. I think he's going to end up being a must-roster player on this team. Quentin Grimes, also a must-roster player. Started out slowly, but had 14, 6, and 9. The assists are intriguing, not usually something we see from him, but certainly adds another dimension to his overall appeal or value. Drummond and Yabusele started alongside each other. Paul George was out in this one. Now, that could have been back-to-back related, so maybe he returns tomorrow. Likewise for Kelly Oubre. So I would be holding, obviously, both of those guys. Drummond, if you streamed him in tonight, 25 and 18 with 2 steals. Easily his best game of the season. What happens if Paul George returns tomorrow? What happens if Kelly Oubre returns? Does Yabusele start at centre? Does Drummond start at centre? There's no Gobert for the Wolves tomorrow. He's already been ruled out. So they will be running with Naz Reid. I would expect Yabusele to start at centre because Andre Drummond guarding the perimeter is not something that any of us need to see. And as we know, Naz Reid is one of the better sort of stretch fives going around. So Yabusele will probably start tomorrow. So I would hold him. I would hold Drummond, even though he may not start. Maybe he can come off the bench and give you sort of that double-double in 20 minutes. Lonnie Walker had 13 points, 2 steals, 2 blocks. We know who Lonnie Walker is. If you want to stream him in for tomorrow, or if you streamed him in today, hold him for tomorrow. That makes perfect sense. But beyond that, I don't think we need to be holding him or Jeff Doughton or Ricky Council or any of these guys. And that's all I've got to say about that. Washington at Miami, 106-90. Heat get the victory. For the Wizards, Keyshawn George had 10, 8, and 5 with a steal, but was then injured. Jaw, face, something like that. I think it was a jaw is what the sort of official diagnosis was. Look, we know Washington, no trust in what they're doing at all. So I would expect if there's any risk of further injury or anything like that, he won't play in their next game. Chris Middleton had 16, 3, and 3 with 3 steals in just 23 minutes. So the numbers are pretty good, but 23 minutes every second game is not enough to be holding Chris Middleton. Koulibaly had 3 points with a steal, man. if we had some sort of award for the most inconsistent player this season, he would be right up there. He'd have to be. I still think he's okay to hold, but ceiling is pretty limited. Honestly, Jordan Poole, he missed today as well. He'll come back at some point, I assume. You could actually make a case that no one on the Washington roster is must roster. Saar, I guess, but he's been missing time. Bub Carrington's playing minutes, but the production is very up and down. Rashawn Holmes has been playing well, but the minutes aren't consistent enough. So I think with the Jordan Poole injury, I think you could absolutely make a case that you don't have to roster anyone in Washington. And honestly, if I had a fantasy team and I didn't have anyone from Washington, my life would be a little bit more relaxed. That's for sure. Let's look at Miami. No Khalil Ware, so Bam Adebayo started at center, 19 and 15, 2 steals and a block. Kevin Love started. Well, okay, whatever. 2 points, 9 rebounds. Alec Burks also started with Terry Rozier. So, yeah, look, when you're winning by, almost 20 points with that starting lineup, yeah, it says a lot about the opposition. Who do we roster here? Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo, obviously. Khalil Ware, I think, is still someone we have to roster. Duncan Robinson was good in this one, but don't think we have to stream him in for threes. Pele Larson, I actually like him if we get to a point where he's playing more minutes. I don't think we will. Not at this stage anyway. Rozier had 15, 5, and 5. Look, I talked about him earlier in last week as a guy who I've seen on waiver wires, and I look at him and I feel like I almost have to pick him up, but I don't because he's been so bad. Maybe you grab him. Maybe this is some sort of a turning point. I have very, very little faith, but we do know what he can do when he's locked in and playing well. So if you wanted to take a flyer on him, you could. But they were without Jaime Jaquez, Davion Mitchell, Khalil Ware, Andrew Wiggins. So they are sort of 4 starter level-ish kind of adjacent players. So that would impact all of those guys. So you would need to keep an eye on the injury report before making any significant moves. All right. Next game of the night. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through. I see lots of questions. I will get to them. And there's a lot tonight. I knew there'd be a lot. I should have expected that. Atlanta get the win over Memphis, 132 to 130 on a Dyson Daniels steal outlet to Karis LeVert for the layup, which I thought could have been a travel, but they didn't call it. Let's start with the Hawks. Reece Shea, 27 points, 4 steals and a block, 32 minutes. Look, he had to shoot 11 of 13 to get here. It's fine. You all know I have that bucket of points scoring, streaming guys. Reece Shea is one of those. Dominic Barlow started. We're not interested in him. Okongwu had 16 and 12 with a steal and a block. Trae Young, 12 and 15. Shot the ball poorly, but he got those assists that we like to see from him. Dyson had 14 points, 7 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals on 6 of 10 shooting. Continues to be very good, as does Karis LeVert, 25 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, 3 steals, 1 block. I think we have to roster him. There was no George Niang in this one, so that helped. Clint Capella, look, I think you can stream him. If you just need typical big man stats, rebounds, blocks. But 16 minutes is not really enough. But if you're desperate, you can give him a look. As I said, Karis LeVert, I think we have to roster him. Terrence Mann, you stream him in. I streamed him in a deeper league tonight, and he did nothing. Now, they may play tomorrow. They do. They play the Bucks tomorrow. So if you did stream in Terrence Mann or Clint Capella or Reece Shea, just hold them for tomorrow because the Hawks, I do trust them in terms of their rotation most nights, so I wouldn't expect there to be significant rest or anything coming up. For Memphis, Ja Morant was out again. Yeah, I've talked about this before. Very quietly, one of the more injury-prone players this season. So he was out. So Desmond Bain stepped up 35, 10, and 10 in 36 minutes. Just didn't get a ton of support. Luke Kennard had 17 points with 7 assists. He had that period, I want to say a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, where he was putting up top 80 value. I don't think we're there again, unless Ja Morant is going to miss more time here. Jaren Jackson played 2 minutes before he was forced from the game. He rolled his ankle. It didn't look terrible, but yeah, obviously it's again fantasy playoffs. It's something you need to be worried about. Even if he misses 2-3 games, that's a whole week gone. So with him out, we got a little bit more Brandon Clark. Vince Williams, GG Jackson also both played a bit more. It probably makes Zach Edey a must-roster player. If Jaren Jackson's going to miss time, Edey had 15 and 5 with the block, but he's just going to have to play more. They need a little bit more size with no Jaren there. What would the lineup look like? Look, I guess they could go a couple of ways. I don't think they would bring Brandon Clark in to start at power forward, only because it really limits their floor spacing. So, yeah, Aldama will probably get the starting nod. He was out in this one as well, but I do think Aldama is worth holding. And then Vince Williams, GG Jackson, we know they can be rosterable players. They're not, at this stage, they're not sort of just playing every game and playing fully healthy. We're still seeing some limitations. So I don't mind taking a flyer on them, but I don't think you have to. I think I'd rather Luke Kennard at this point, but let's see what happens with Ja Morant. All right, Houston. What's their G League? I don't even know what their G League team's called, but this was pretty close to it. Houston were without, I need to look at the list here so I know who they were without. Steven Adams, Dylan Brooks, Alperen Şengün, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, and Fred Van Fleet. So basically their entire starting lineup was out. This is why my confidence in them has dropped a little bit. I would just, if games like this, obviously OKC, who are the best team or arguably the best team in the league at the moment, and Houston are on a back-to-back, so they do play tomorrow against, I think they do. Yeah, they do. Yes, they play the Pacers tomorrow. So that's a game that they will think they can win. So I would expect a lot of those Houston guys to come back tomorrow. So Cam Whitmore, Reed Shepherd, Aaron Holiday, Fali Dante. Yeah, you don't need to worry about any of those guys, I don't think. I would expect, as I said, I would expect the Rockets to be much closer to full strength tomorrow. But it was good to see Reed Shepherd out there, 25 points, 5 assists, 2 steals, 1 block. This is why we were somewhat high on him. This is why he was arguably the number 1 pick in Dynasty. So, yeah, good to see. Good to see. I don't think it's going to mean anything in the scheme, in the big picture or the scheme of things. But it's good to see. Also good to see Cam Whitmore doing his thing. 27 points, 11 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 steals. Look, if he was playing 25, 30 minutes a night, he'd be a must-roster player. But he is so far down the pecking order most nights that this is nothing more than a piece of luck if you manage to stream him in. If you want to hold him for tomorrow, again, I think you could do that just in case they're without those guys. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 9 games tomorrow, though, so keep that in mind. You're not going to have multiple streaming spots, I wouldn't think. Let's get to OKC. Another guy who is probably in that discussion as one of the more injury-prone players, Alex Caruso, 5 minutes, left the game. Don't need to be holding him. Jalen Williams also left this game with a wrist injury but was able to return. But do keep an eye on that. They're obviously in no position to have to force him to play, so he could miss a game or two here. He had 24 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, a steal and a block. Chet had 11 and 11 with 3 blocks, 2 steals. So good to see that he was back on the court. He only missed one game as a result of that ankle injury. His return impacted Isaiah Hartenstein, 8 and 5 for Hartenstein with 6 assists, a steal and a block. So still good numbers other than the scoring, but if you have him on your roster, you don't rely on him for scoring. Shea, he took advantage of playing against a G League team here. 51 points for him. Don't need to talk about him. Cason Wallace had 14 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals. He's pretty close to must-roster territory. I think I'd much rather him over Dort, Caruso, Wiggins. Whether he's starting or coming off the bench, he is playing 30-ish minutes. He's giving us steals, and the scoring has been serviceable. Let's call it serviceable of late. Sacramento at Dallas. I'm just moving these questions around. For the Kings, now no Sabonis, obviously, so he is out for at least a week. Malik Monk left this game, was able to return, only played 23 minutes, but part of that was just the scoreline. Dallas never really challenged them. We'll talk about that in a second. Monk had 13 and 8 with 2 steals. Look, the starters were all fine, but they all only needed to play minutes in the sort of mid to high 20s. Jonas Valanciunas started. Make sure he's rostered 14, 9 and 3 with 2 blocks in his 23 minutes. Now, again, this was a blowout. I think if this had been a close game, he would have been closer to 30 minutes, and 30 minutes of Valanciunas is top 50, potentially. Keegan Murray had 18, 5 and 3, so good to see him taking advantage of a favourable matchup as well. And then we got more minutes for Keon Ellis, Trey Lyles, Markelle Fultz. Now, Keon Ellis, more minutes, that's usually a good thing. Tonight, not so much. 0 points, 0 steals. He had 2 blocks. There is a reason that they're hesitant to play him big minutes all the time. I know he's on-off, he's good, he's plus-minus, all that sort of thing, but coaches know generally what they're doing. So, look, we'd love to see him out there a little bit more. I think he does give them more of a defensive identity, obviously. He will be better than this, but for me, I think he is still just a defensive streamer and nothing more. All right, for Dallas, who are already without, let's see who they're without. Caleb Martin, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, who, surprise, surprise, returned too early from an ankle injury. They were without all of those guys, and then Kyrie Irving injured his knee after just 9 minutes. Now, I don't think this is an ACL. I'm, again, obviously not a doctor. But I've watched a few videos, read a few things. This was a hyperextension. ACLs tend to happen when there's more of a sort of a lateral movement of the knee. This one just looked like a straight hyperextension. So there's going to be, there could be some ligament damage. There's a thing at the back, I think it's called the poplea, something. Anyway, that may have torn. Could be a PCL tear or sprain. Whatever the outcome, I would expect at least a week to 2 weeks here for Kyrie Irving. Didn't look good. He was able to shoot his free throws, which you've probably seen if you're on social media. But yes, I would expect him to miss time, and I think that is probably it for the season. For Dallas, they're already sitting... where are they? So they are 10th currently. 3.5 wins ahead, or games ahead of the Phoenix Suns and the Portland Trail Blazers. And I think you'd argue, it's a pretty safe argument at this point, that both of those teams are better than Dallas, given their current roster construction. So, this might be it for Dallas. Who do we add? It's probably Spencer Dinwiddie. Make sure Max Christie is rostered, 10, 5 and 4 for him. He has been average of late, but I think we have to roster him. I think we have to roster Spencer Dinwiddie. It's very unexciting. I would have said Jaden Hardy, but he also left this game with an injury. I think his was an ankle. Where are we? Yes, was an ankle. for him, I'm going to have to make sure I didn't miss any injuries tonight as well, aren't I? Yeah, I think that was it. So Spencer Dinwiddie, Dante Exum, he's pretty limited. His ceiling is capped. He's not going to play more than about 25 minutes. Exum is someone to consider. Look, Klay Thompson will ideally have to do a bit more, but he had 3 points in this game. So this could end up being a situation where no one is must roster, much like Washington. Najee Marshall, I'd probably hold him. Kai Jones is very interesting. I like Kai Jones. When he was with the Clippers, I thought that he had something. I liked him. He's now with Dallas, but he is only eligible to play, I think, 10 or 11 more games, which is about half of what they have. He should absolutely be starting at center over Dwight Powell and over Kessler Edwards. So if you want to take a flyer on Kai Jones here, maybe they're just going to roll him out there for 3 weeks, and then they may start to get Gafford, Washington, these guys back. So 21-8 for Kai Jones with a block in 34 minutes. I really don't mind taking a flyer on him just to see what happens. And the last game of the night, the Detroit Pistons comfortably over the Utah Jazz, 134-106. Detroit, it was pretty cruisy for them. Jalen Duren, 16 and 12, 2 assists, 4 blocks, 2 steals. Loving this defensive stuff from him at the moment. Asar Thompson had 17, 6 and 5, 3 steals and a block. Perfect from the field, perfect from the line. So great night for him. A lot of his points came late, and they were playing against Utah, but nonetheless, really nice from him. Tim Hardaway had 13 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. Stream only. Malik Beasley, 15 points, probably just a streamer as well at this point of the season. Cade had 29 points, 9 assists, 4 steals. Was really just in, third gear, maybe. They did not have to push themselves at all in this one. And then we got little bits and pieces from Ron Holland, Paul Reed, Dennis Schroeder, Simone Fontecchio. We don't need to be rostering those guys. And over to Utah, no John Collins, no Lauri Markkanen, no Jordan Clarkson. Are they the only ones I'm missing? Well, Michael Potter. They're the main ones. So Walker Kessler started 14 and 9 with a block. Not his best night, but I think just having him on the floor is a positive. If you're lucky enough to have him on your roster, you're just happy when he plays. Sexton had 16 points with 3 steals in just 20 minutes. They're going to be pretty cautious with him, with Clarkson. Collier, I'm fairly confident in what he'll be doing rest of season in terms of minutes played. Only 2 assists in this one, 11 points, 2 steals. You have to roster him. Keontae George, he has been pretty bad the last week, I want to say. I'm relatively confident he will play rest of season as well. I think it'll be Sexton and Clarkson that actually miss time. So I'm okay to hold Keontae George. But where are we on Kyle Filipowski? 24 minutes, 25 points, 8 rebounds. Is he a must-roster player? Look, I think he might be. I don't know how many games we're going to get with Markkanen, Kessler, and Collins all healthy at the same time. Filipowski is a 5, but he can sort of play a 4 at a stretch. 24 minutes is going to be enough. So if you streamed him or added him for tonight, I would just hold him. Sensabaugh had 0 points. He's been better than this. He is a streamer. Of those guys, Cody Williams, Sensabaugh, Mikhailiuk, KJ Martin, Johnny Juzang, Filipowski would be at the top of that list for me. So yes, just go and see if he's available, and if you can afford to do it, take a little bit of a flyer on him. All right, we have a lot of questions, so hopefully I get through all of them. Let's see. All right, Alex, thoughts on sending out Shaden for Castle in a points league? Is it worth the hassle, Or do I just hold on to Sharp and see what happens in Portland? I'd probably hold Shaden Sharp there, I think. All right. Chad, should Desmond Bain be getting some of the first round consideration his teammate JJJ has gotten? First round, I don't think so, but he has been very good. If you remember 2 months ago, people were wondering what the hell was going on with Bain. He wasn't playing that well. He has been very good. Ja Morant's been so inconsistent. So I don't think first round, but he has been very good. So if for some reason you got him in a buy low, then you're probably smiling right now. Lone Des should have traded Maxi back then. I'm doing fine without him for the last 2 weeks, but it's tough. It is, and yeah, it's going to get tougher, I think. Matt Carmody, late season shenanigans. That's where we are, and technically it's not even late season, really, not real life anyway. So Vion Lynn Hall. Totally reactionary pickups. You do need to do them in the playoffs, yes. What do I think of GG Jackson and Kai Jones? I talked about Kai Jones. I don't mind taking a flyer on him because they literally have no other centers who are talented. So, like I said, they may just run him out there for 3 weeks, which if your playoff started today, you get 3 weeks of Kai Jones. So I don't mind him. GG Jackson, I'm not as confident in, only because the Grizzlies were without a few guys today, and yeah, he's coming off injuries and things like that. So Kai Jones, I would feel slightly safer about. But again, GG Jackson was good today. We saw what he did last season. So yeah, I'm not against it. I'm just probably not for it as much. Chad. Not sure if I'm more impressed by Cam Whitmore or Reece Shea. They were both impressive. Look, if they were both playing 30 minutes a night, I'd rather Whitmore quite easily. Reece Shea has been playing 26, 28, 30 minutes and hasn't been a top 100 player. So he's pretty limited. So I'm probably more impressed by Whitmore, but we know the story there. Ernest... You have a bye week this week. Well done. Need to stream defensive stats against my semi-final opponent in week 19, so next week. My options are Olynyk, Day'Ron Sharp, Keyshawn, and Lonzo. I'd probably go Day'Ron. 5 games. He probably plays all of them, I think. Does Claxton miss 1 or 2? I don't know, but in 20 minutes, so that's sort of 100 minutes of Day'Ron Sharp. That's 3.5 standard kind of games, I suppose, starter level. We know what he can do. So I'd probably go him. Keyshawn George, look, if this injury that he suffered today isn't terrible, he would probably be next on my list. What are you looking at? Field rebounds, stocks. Probably Olynyk would be next, and then Lonzo, I think. Yeah. All right. Another one from Ernest. Who do I think has the greatest value next week, and who would I drop between Grimes, Keontae, Bol, Maxi, and Fred VanVleet? Well, Maxi obviously has the highest value there per game, but don't know what's he going to miss here? It was only a back. It'll be a back contusion or a hip or something. But that could be a week to 2 weeks. Rudy Gobert's been out with 2 weeks for an injury that they said wasn't serious at all. Backs are tricky. So obviously he would be the best. Who would I drop out of that bunch? I don't know. It's pretty tough. I mean, Grimes is going to play. He's going to play big minutes. Bol is playing pretty good minutes at the moment, but he is very hit or miss. He's been really good, but then really bad. Keontae's just been pretty bad, but he's playing. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough one. If Maxi's going to miss time or Fred VanVleet, I'd drop them. But who knows when we're going to find out. Ricardo, is Hartenstein a drop as we approach the end of the season? Well, I'm not, but yeah, look, I mean, your example you've put here is, would we rather stream Kai Jones? Look, if we knew Kai was going to start and play, I probably would, but we don't. So, yeah, I'm going to say no, that Hartenstein probably isn't a drop at this stage. What else have we got? Sorry, I'm just reading through things that are questions because we've got a lot of them. So I just want to... Is Steph hurt? I don't think so. I think it's just his ongoing management things. Yuri, love the deep bench and games cap in Locked On Fantasy Bowl. Yeah, that's why we do it. Or it's why Josh does it. We do that in the World Cup as well. So, yes, deep benches games cap is another interesting wrinkle that you can have. We've got that in industry pickup as well. So that does help with negating the injuries somewhat. Yeah, look, that's probably my argument as well, Loandes, in when I said earlier in the show about shortening the active roster spots, so from 8 to 6, it is unfair for a fully healthy team who may then have to pick. They may have 8 players playing, and they've got to actually pick 6 of them to play, which, yeah, look, I can see that would be a little bit unfair. You could see that as unfair. So, yes, there is no right or wrong answer, and it's probably just something, like I said, I'll trial it and see. Should I drop Jalen Smith for Kai Jones? I think that's probably okay. Jalen Smith will ramp up a bit, but I don't think he's a must roster. Carl, thoughts on a Dinwiddie pickup with Kyrie being injured? Yeah, look, I think so. I think he's probably worth a look. It's not an exciting look, but he's worth a look. Length of season. What was that? I don't know what that one's relating to. Were the Grimes assists a product of being forced into primary ball handler with Maxi hurt? Yes, they would have been. So, look, maybe it's something that we see a little bit more of, which is nice for his value. With Maxi and Oubre probably both sitting tomorrow and Grimes taken, would Lonnie be the play? I guess he might be. Yeah, I don't know if Oubre will sit tomorrow, but he might. Paul George also, remember, he could be back or he could sit. But, yeah, I think it probably Lonnie based on what we saw today. How would I rank Kaysen, Dinwiddie, Cole Anthony, and Bub? Currently have Bub and Cole. Question from Michael Mendes. I think I'd rather Kaysen, actually, over probably all of those guys. If I had to rank them, I'd... probably depends a little bit on what you're looking for, because Kaysen, a lot of his value does come from steals. Yeah, I mean, they're all playing 30 minutes. Bub is probably at the bottom of that list just because he's very inconsistent, as is Cole Anthony. Well, Dinwiddie, God. Yeah, look, Kaysen might be number one just because he's fairly steady with what he gives you. Cole Anthony probably has the ability to do more across the board. But, you could make a case. They're all pretty close. Like, they're all, I don't know, top 100 maybe. Dave, Dyson Daniels is your defensive player of the year. Good. I like to hear that. Yes, if you have Dyson Daniels on your roster, you probably do win steals most weeks. I can tell you that from experience. Alex, playoffs haven't started for me yet, but Washington has 4-4-4 and the team is dreadful. Yes. Would I pick up Chris Middleton? Worst players are Cam Thomas, Shaden, Mikal Bridges, or uses a stream spot. No, I wouldn't pick up Chris Middleton. He's not going to play. It's 4-4-4, but I guarantee you he doesn't play 4-4-4. Why didn't Memphis rule out JJJ to return? Can't answer that. Can't put him into IR to pick up an extra body. Don't trust him to rule him out for the next game. Yeah, look, maybe something comes later. I don't know what, I don't know what platform you're on, but you're in ESPN, aren't you? Because you're if it's the points league that you just referred to. So if it's an ESPN, I actually have no idea how their injury reporting works because I don't play any leagues on ESPN. C Park, with Kyrie possibly gone, who would I choose as a staple roster player in 9-cat with free throw percentage punt? CP3, Tari Eason, Vassell, Denny, and maybe Karis LeVert or Ty Jerome for this week. Who is a staple roster player? So if I had to pick one of those guys to hold, it's probably not Tari Eason because he's sitting back-to-backs. I don't know. They're all probably must roster players in my eyes. Ty Jerome, obviously, he's been very good, but Cleveland they're resting Evan Mobley tomorrow. They rested Donovan Mitchell. I talked about this last week that I think they will start to slowly just rest players one at a time. Jerome's not going to benefit as much, obviously, from the resting of Evan Mobley, but Garland's probably going to have a rest coming up at some point. I think you can make a case for all of them, to be honest. If Anthony Davis clears his evaluation on Wednesday, when would he be able to return to play? Well, I don't think he will, but it varies. Could be a week, could be 2 weeks. As I said, given their trajectory of their season, maybe they just pull the pin. I'm not sure. Who would I choose to stream? All right, we're getting towards the bottom. Oh, yeah, getting there. Okay, where are we? I did that one already. What's this one from Dave? My league has only 3 moves. Should I save one move this week and stagger my moves for the rest of the head? So I can essentially get 4 by adding someone Sunday for the Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. It's always good to save your, manipulate the not the rules, I suppose, but utilize those pickups as carefully as possible to maximize games. Yes, I did miss that. I realised once I got to the end of the Philly game, Justin Edwards also had an ankle injury today, so do keep in mind that he may not play tomorrow either. Norm Powell does have a hamstring strain. I have him in a team where I'm just waiting for an update because our playoffs start next week. Common sense is, yes, he will probably miss 2 to 3 weeks here, so you can probably drop him. But, I would just wait and see. Shaden Sharp or Scoot in a 9-cat? Well, it's Shaden at the moment, I think. Luke Kennard or Dinwiddie. Let's go Dinwiddie. Who's replacing Maxey as the starter? It's pretty sad reading, isn't it? Look, it's probably going to change because if Oubre and George are back, I guess Grimes could sort of start at point guard and they could just shuffle around a bit. Lonnie Walker is not a point guard. They don't really have one because Kyle Lowry's out. Eric Gordon, well, he's not really one either. Yeah, look, it's probably Grimes doing a bit more. Paul George will handle the ball a bit more as well. That's probably it. Did we do that one? Oh, yeah. Okay, here we go. 12-team points league. A lot of people injured, going to need to stream. Who would I drop? Collier, Poole, Ware, Fred VanVleet, Buzelis. Not Collier because he's healthy and he's playing. So not Collier. Fred VanVleet, without knowing how long he's going to be out, that's a tough one for him. Probably not Buzelis because he's playing as well. Ware and Poole, maybe it's Ware. He's not great in a points league. Poole is still very good in a points league, so it might be Ware. Ellis was shite, Adam. Thank you. Yes, he was. Drummond or Day'Ron Sharp? Let's go Sharp, I think, just. Ryan Porteous. Drop Zach Collins for Klingon. Vooch could be back by the end of the week. It's your bye week. Yeah, I think that's okay. Yep. How many games can Kai Jones play? Yeah, I think it's 11. I think it's 10 or 11 more. Is Lowry due back? I don't think so. Yeah, look, maybe they're forced to play him. I don't think they want to, but maybe they are. But even if he starts, he's not going to play more than about 24 minutes. So I guess if you're desperate for assists, you can give him a look. That's about it, though. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. That's an hour. That was a long one with only 7 games. So there you go. Back tomorrow. Don't think I've got any extra shows coming up. So normal post-game show tomorrow. Usual sort of time, I think. Thank you, everyone, for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. Please go and download, like, subscribe, and thumb. I'm Adam King. This has been the Balls Deep post-game show. Until next time, catch ya.
You just listened to another episode from the Fantasy Basketball International Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us. And for more information about joining our community, please check out our website at fbibasketball.com.